So, this video's freebie is a specific public walking trail that's like paved here in southern Indiana. It's the Ohio River Greenway and the Clarksville, New Albany, Jeffersonville. They're all connected with this like series and system of paved walking trails. It's pretty cool. We walk there all the time. The first set of videos was from the day after White Castle, and the second set of videos is from today, the 8th. We went to Walk Mercy as soon as I got off work. Chris got home at like 6:30 and I got off work at 7:30. We were over there by 8, and we walked for literally like 15 minutes before we had to stop walking. And you'll see why in the video, and I'll explain more later. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end this here for right now, and I'll check back in a little bit. Done. What's it say? Fucking hell. Well. Spiders. So, I'm from Eastern Kentucky, and growing up, we had a huge yard, lived up a holler, everybody knew everybody, and everybody knew who everybody's dogs were. We would have regular visitors to our yard. We would have regular puppies because our dog wasn't fixed, and every year we would give away puppies. The way we have Mercy is from somebody's dog having puppies up a holler in Eastern Kentucky. So I'm familiar with loose dogs. What I'm not familiar with is loose dogs here. One of my friends that I grew up with back home, she would move back and forth sometimes, like several times throughout our childhood. She and her mom would come up here and live in Seymour, and she used to say she was moving to Kentuckiana, and I was like, that's not a real place. And I never knew, like growing up, I never knew that that was a legitimate term that people used for the area. Just the border between the states where they kind of bleed into each other culturally and generally. Growing up also, it felt like Louisville was basically another state. It didn't feel like you were in Kentucky anymore, because to me, Kentucky was just what I'd grown up with. Southern Indiana is a lot like Eastern Kentucky, and I feel like the people who live here don't realize that they're just like us. It's just basically Appalachians who settled there. We went to the same set of trails that we took Mercy to in the first set of videos, except we went walking the other direction because there's like a haze in the city right now, and it's apparently not the same smoky haze from the Canadian wildfires. Apparently that's supposed to move in sometime tomorrow. This was from something completely different, and we went walking in that direction because it's back towards the Falls of the Ohio from the George Rogers Clark homestead. And so I was recording for one, my freebies, and two, trying to get shots of what the city looked like with the haze. And Chris loves dogs and assumes the best for Mercy, and he's seen that she's good with other dogs when they know how to greet her. and they're leashed and their owners are with them, keeping them held back, and their owners know how they react. And so I'll just go ahead and let the video play from here, and then I'll come back in with the story time of what we ended up doing with what happened. What's up? You hear the chittering?
Yeah, you're an animal. Active animal.
It's the bugs waking up. What's up? You want me to hold her?
No, we got it.
Okay. It's tangled. Whoa. Puppy.
There's a horse over there.
Hmm.
You hear it?
Yeah, it's like a June bug or something.
Come on.
The vibrating sound?
That's it.
The thing's like that thing? It's not a horse. A horse or a what?
Bear.
Ain't no bear.
I've never seen a bear, so I don't know what a bear sounds like.
Oh, hello. What girl? Well, she pissed on it. Well, I was hoping she wasn't gonna shit on it. That's on her head. She'll piss on her own head. She'll find a way to do it.
Hey, buddy. Hey.
Hello, doggy.
Buddy.
Who's that? I think that's those little kids' dog
Hey.
that rode the Power Wheels. Hey, make sure you've got her.
See this one?
He may be guarding his house.
Hey, buddy.
He's wet. This dog is off leash at Linda Avenue in Clarksville or Jeffersonville, near the Lewis and Clark, George Rogers Clark homestead. He's soaking wet, and he has a red collar on. He's grayish black with tan markings. I don't know if he lives in one of these houses and he's just running around, but he ran up to us and was kind of coming at our dog, which made her reactive because she is reactive. He's trying to zoom in on his little face. Got a little kind of scruffy face. Like some kind of little terrier. And I don't know whose dog he is, but he's running up to other people's dogs and I'm worried he might get hit by a truck. So, somebody come get your dog? Okay. So, yes, big transition from the last time you saw me. It has been several days since I was like, yeah, I'll record the actual story time after I edit this next part of the clip. Y'all, work has been rough, and I ended up working an extra day. I worked overtime on Friday. To cut it short, today's my birthday. Happy birthday to me. But I hadn't had a chance to really actually record the story time that I wanted since the other day, so I'm going to try and keep this brief because we're going to go film another video that you'll see in a little bit. But I've filmed other days in between, but just now I'm getting a chance to record this story time. So, just super briefly, we found that dog, and we didn't like the idea of leaving it out in the road running around like it was with as much traffic as is on that road. Thankfully nobody goes by super fast, but there's just a lot of traffic, and he was just kept running back and forth up on the hill. And then even if we would have wanted to leave him alone, he kept following us. And he wasn't on a leash. We thought we had a spare leash in the car. We didn't, because we had taken it inside. And he kept following us, and Mercy didn't like him. She, kept trying to snap and bite at him, because I think Mercy has dog breed prejudice. She recognizes that a dog is a dog if it looks like her, if it has, like, visible ears and eyes and, like, a normal snout and, like, short hair. Even if it's, like, kind of fluffy, it's fine. But when it's, like, curly and matted and smelly and like anything that looks like a Shih Tzu or a Yorkie, anything with, like, hair instead of fur, she gets confused and she thinks it's a random wild animal coming up on us, which makes sense, because any of the dogs she grew up with all had, short coats or double coats. They had coarse hair. They didn't have big fluffy, like, poodly, Shih Tzu-y, little tiny dog energy or hair, anything like that. And she grew up outside for the first 6 months of her life, pretty much. Like, she could come inside sometimes, especially whenever she was really little, but she was an outside dog before we got her. And when she does interact with other dogs, they're on a leash. So when a dog is off leash and runs up to her, gets in her face, she's gonna tell it to get the hell away. In the videos you just saw, she didn't attack him or anything. She just really wanted to get to him, and he didn't have any concern for his own safety, so he just kept getting in her range. She is a reactive dog. We're working with her on it, and that's why you should have your dogs on leashes, and you shouldn't just let them run loose. All that to say, we couldn't see any way of making sure that dog was safe, continuing our walk, and possibly leading that dog further away from where it needed to be, or risking our dog hurting that dog. So when the next time that he was following along Mercy, like, after I recorded that video, he went around behind me, like, doubled back around, and then ran up the road, up the path to where Chris and Mercy were further up the road. And Chris had Mercy calm down enough to, like, just let him come up to them, and I managed to just catch up with them. And while they were sniffing noses, he was just like, oh, okay, like, Mercy was cool again, because she'd seen it for a while and she realized it was another dog, and we didn't want her to be mean to it. I just went like that, trying to grab it, and I realized my hands only went this far. He wasn't as much fluff as he looked like. He was a fat little bowling ball of a dog, just like a little hefty turkey. And picked him up, put him up on my like, shoulder, cradled him, and he just settled in. Like, he was used to being carried, like he was used to being held. I'm like, okay. He has a collar on. He was much dirtier than I thought. And I was like, this is someone's dog. This isn't, I wouldn't think this is a dog that someone has just sat out, or how fat he was. I didn't necessarily think that he was a dog that was being walked regularly enough that he would have, gotten off of a leash. I was like, he's gotten out of someone's yard. He's been taken out of someone's yard and then dropped here. He ran away. It had, like, rained the night before. I was like, he's probably gotten loose somehow and has been out in a storm, and who knows how far he is from home. We're not used to this area. No matter how long we've lived here, we're not really that used to it. We don't know how stray holds and stuff work. We knew there was no way we could keep him with us for any real amount of time, other than just to get him to a vet to be microchipped. So that's what we ended up doing. I carried him all the way back to the car. He was fine while I was carrying him, and then whenever I got to the car, he scratched me. They're thankfully faded now, but I'll put a picture of what it looked like that day up here. I got home and I like washed with antibacterial soap because I had no idea what would have been in his little claws. But we got him in the car. He was absolutely filthy, super matted. While I was carrying him, I was just feeling like bumps and bumps and bumps of mats in his fur. And Chris got back to the car with Mercy, and it was at that point that we realized we didn't have a leash for him. And so what we did was Chris sat up here with him and he drove, and we put a bucket that we have in the back that we keep her like toys and stuff in. We put it up in the middle here between the seats, and then I sat in the back with Mercy, had her leash looped around the headrest to secure her back. We're investing in one of those harness seatbelt clips because it's safer anyway, and we've been meaning to, and this would have been one of those perfect instances where I didn't have to sit back there and physically restrain her to keep her from trying to jump up front. But I had to sit in the back and keep her calm and talk to her and keep her from trying to get up here and attack this dog that was, you know, in her seat, in her car. I've talked before about how protective she is of her car. We find a vet that's open in Clarksville, maybe 5 minutes away from where we were. We drove over there. They scanned him for a microchip. He didn't have one. We had been trying to call Clarksville Animal Control and kept getting a voicemail. I asked to be put through to the operator with their automated system because my job is basically calling systems like this, just phone trees, trying to get a human being at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I was like, if I can't get a hold of someone on a weekday after it was like after 9 a.m. at that point. I was like, then something's wrong. So I left a message with like the operator for the public works in Clarksville, and she was like, she would have someone give us a call back. I still haven't gotten a call back. So that's nice. Tax dollars at work, I guess. They're really short-handed because I can't blame municipal government for that because there's so many reports that they're actively having to answer to because so many dogs are just stray and loose in the streets because people aren't taking care of them. So first I posted on Louisville Lost and Found Pets, was told by a really trusted, well-known, well-reputed dog rescue person in the area that I shouldn't do that because that'll lead to people from outside of the immediate area here in southern Indiana coming in here and just making it worse, taking the dog away, people who think they're helping actually making the situation worse. Some of the stuff that you think are intuitive and are like the good thing to do, whenever you give it a bit of thought, it's like, okay, well no, that doesn't make any sense. Now, you might be thinking, why didn't you just knock on doors in the neighborhood and ask? Well, people are being shot for doing that. So we didn't feel comfortable doing that first thing in the morning with hardly anybody else around because it was early enough in the morning that there really wasn't anyone on the trail like there is whenever we'd be there in the afternoon. Especially my boyfriend didn't feel comfortable doing that. Chris didn't feel comfortable doing that. Southern Indiana is, like I said, a lot like back home, where you never know what you're gonna get when you come across someone who may have pretty messed up beliefs. So to have a black man knocking on your door at 8:30 in the morning in a sleepy little Indiana, cul-de-sac type neighborhood, didn't feel safe. We were like, well, we'll at least go get him scanned, and that'll let us know if he's at least in that neighborhood, if he does have a chip and he didn't have a chip. The lady at the vet gave us like a slip lead leash, like a plastic braided leash that we looped into his collar so that we at least, were able to walk him. We decided we were going to take him to a shelter to see if they could register him at least. But like I said, we couldn't get an answer from the Clarksville Animal Control, And then the Jeffersonville shelter wasn't open until 11 a.m. So we were like, well, he's filthy, he has to be miserable. Let's take him to Feeder Supply and like give him a bath. But while Chris was in there and I was in here with Mercy in the car, there was a worker at Feeder Supply. I think it was the same girl who clips Mercy's nails every time we take her, but she said that there had been a missing poster of a dog that looked a lot like that dog. They didn't have the copy of the flyer anymore, but she's pretty sure there had been one at Kroger. So Chris walks the dog over to Kroger, goes in there, and can't find anything out. He told me to go into Feeder Supply and get a pouch of like wet dog food that he had found that was like $1.50. And it was like, you know, just in case he's hungry. We tried to give him water. He drank a little bit of that, but not very much. Then he came back in from Kroger. They didn't have the picture, but there was another girl in there who said that the Ogle shelter in Jeffersonville is where she takes strays when she finds them. And so we tried to give him the wet dog food. He didn't seem like he had missed any meals. I already had that suspicion, but more and more as we were going along told me that we had probably kidnapped this dog, that he was just loose and not being kept secured like he needed to be, and was just running around the neighborhood. And the reason that we'd never seen him before is because we're never really over there. Like, the only reason we were on that trail was because of the smoke, like the haziness that we were trying to see what we could see from that part of the trail. We normally walk the other way that you see in the first part of the video. And I don't know how much of this I repeated in the beginning, so if I repeat myself, it's fine. It's okay. I just had to get this out because I have like 7 other videos I need to edit and put out before this one, or after this one. So Mercy's freaking out. We realized we can't keep her. The animal shelter doesn't open until 11, which was like 45 more minutes. So Chris brought me and Mercy back to the house. I took a shower to wash off where I'd been scratched up, and gave Mercy some food and water. My nose is itching again. And
Goodness. Good girl.
gotta wrap this up real quick. So Chris brought us back here. He went up there, waited 45 minutes, and then finally got to go in. And they were asking him for all kinds of ID, like everything. He didn't have it with him. He's like, can't you just take the dog? They needed all this information from him. He came back here, swapped out with me. So, all that to say, walked the dog, knocked on one door, and the lady was like, I think it's 3 houses down. And walked 3 houses down, and I made it to like the second house, and the dog started like running on the leash up to his porch and lay down on the doormat. Got this picture of him, and then knocked on the door a few times and nobody was answering, and I was like, I'm pretty sure this is his house. Knocked on the next door neighbor's door. He confirmed it was that house. Nobody ever came to the door, so I just sat in the driveway, honked the horn a couple times, and then after like 15 minutes somebody came out, and I had left him like with his leash looped up under a deck chair, and then a little old lady came out, which confirmed that probably somebody who can't really walk him, who maybe let him out to use the bathroom. He saw a dog that he never sees there, ran up to us, and we took him, but he got back home at the end of the day.